Hello, friends. Emulators are bad. Well, that is, of course, until they're useful. This is according to PC Gamer, who wrote this article saying it's slightly embarrassing that the Nintendo Museum are using emulators for their games at the museum. This is all on the back of my friend Bob Wolf getting tagged in a tweet of somebody going to the Nintendo Museum, unplugging the Super Nintendo controller, and realizing that the games are being emulated on a Windows PC. Bob retweeted this, and it has 46,000 likes. It's been seen 1.6 million times, and the rhetoric online is, of course, got him, or just in general, making fun of the fact that Nintendo doesn't like emulators, but here they are emulating. Now, what if I told you that I think it's perfectly fine for them to be emulating, and I don't think that it's hypocritical at all? You'd probably say, oh, look, Wood is once again defending Nintendo. Let's react. I think, and this, I want to say too, Bob's obviously a real closest of close friends possible to me. And I think even, I don't want to speak for him, but I think even Bob knows rationally. We've talked about it, but I think he even knows that, like, he doesn't really care. I think about this in general. I mean, he found it interesting that they were using an emulator for their games. But let me talk about why I think this is fine. I don't know where to begin. I guess I'll begin by saying that I've gotten some comments lately that, oh, I just keep defending Nintendo or defending big corporations, which, no, I mean, I'm in the middle of making a video about their $100 alarm clock and how it's a waste of money. I've consistently and constantly gone against Nintendo's line of thinking, called them out for several things in the past, even got dropped from their ambassador program because I wasn't in line with their way of thinking. It's just sometimes things aren't as bad as they seem. Sometimes corporations aren't in the wrong about specific things. And I know we all want corporations to burn, and nothing can get too big without becoming evil incarnate. But in this specific case, let me talk about the nuance here. To start with, the emulators that Nintendo have an issue, and by the way, I know I'm making a Nintendo-themed video on this channel, but I have a lot to talk about that I want to break this down in a video with no interruptions. To start with, the emulators that Nintendo are actively going after and shutting down right now are emulators that emulate the current gen Nintendo Switch releases they're putting out, right? Ryujinx, Yuzu, these are the ones they're trying to shut down because they are the ones emulating their current gen, the games that they're currently making and selling and trying to make business from, and also the emulators that are allowing people to pirate their games and get them early and break street release dates and a whole slew of issues that look bad for them, hurt their bottom line, and also look bad for their investors and their third parties. And it's just generally in their interest to shut these down. Also, there is a use case for these current gen emulators that are legal. Like if you're taking your own games, making backup copies of them, and then playing your own backup copies of your Switch games. But you have to imagine the amount of people doing that is minuscule compared to the amount of people that are just downloading, pirating, and stealing these games. That is the number one use case, and Nintendo are just trying to put an end to that. But Nintendo have not and are not going after NES emulators or Super Nintendo emulators. I mean, that's all open source at this point. It's almost frivolous and pointless to even try. There's so many of them. It's so easy to do. Nintendo made their own emulators to run them on the Switch. Like, they're just, you can't do anything about that. Also, those games, you can't buy those games legally anymore. They're not actively selling those games. They're 30, 25 years old. Nintendo they don't care about that, right? And the ones that we're seeing in the Nintendo Museum that are being emulated, it's for the Super Nintendo and NES. And think about how annoying it would be if in their museum at each one of these stations, they have an original hardware NES setup that people are having to manually change the carts, and they're constantly not working, and you're having to blow in them because these things are 30 years old. And to be honest, those elements to the museum should be behind glass at this point. We don't need hundreds of people coming in every day and putting their grubby hands all over this old plastic. They should be, and also you would have to imagine the ones in the museum, if they were to do it the old school way, they'd have to have like pristine versions of these games, right? They wouldn't want to have like a Duck Hunt with a half ripped off label that people are just slamming in. So they'd want these like pristine ones that people are just ruining by manhandling all day long. That doesn't make sense. People are saying like, oh, the museum is to encapsulate Nintendo, right? Like to show respect to the games and all of that. So like, why are you emulating them? Well, it's because the games are showing respect and they're behind glass, right? Like they're being protected and preserved behind glass. They're not for you to come in and get your smudgy little greasy hot dog fingers all over, you know? And to have all these different old consoles out with all the issues they have these days, it'd be like when you go to the grocery store and you're trying to scan all your groceries and the self-pay, and the damn light keeps blinking with the service representative will be on your way because you tried to scan your bananas incorrectly and now you have to wait before you scan anything else. You're going to go to this museum and constantly be waiting for the crew to come over and help you change out a game or reboot the Super Nintendo. No, it just makes more sense to emulate it, right? Of course it does. To have all the games on one PC, a PC that can do a bunch of emulation at once, just to condense everything and make it easier. Like, of course it makes sense to emulate it. Also, if you want to go down this avenue, the whole issue with emulators, even if we were to look at NES and Super Nintendo emulators, the issue isn't the emulator. We've talked about this to death. The emulator is completely legal. It's just software that replicates other software, but it's its own thing. It's its own entity. That is legal. It's the distribution and the downloading of ROMs illegally and stealing the games. That's the issue. This is Nintendo's games. Nintendo can do what they want with them. They can't illegally download, they can't illegally distribute their own games. It's their property. Like, the reason why they get mad at us for emulating is because we're taking their property and we're doing it. But they can do it if they want. Like, worst case scenario, if there wasn't any like lack of hypocrisy here that I've been trying to explain. Worst case scenario, let's say this is the ultimate hypocrisy, like people are saying here, goof guy in the comments over here on the right. Even if it was, ultimately Nintendo owns these games. They can't illegally, you know, take the whole element of like the emulation's legal, but the ROMs are illegal. They're not illegal for Nintendo. The ROMs are Nintendo's ROMs. They can do what they want with them. They can emulate them to Kingdom Come if they want to. It's their games. It's their property. They quite literally made them. They can do what they want with them. They can distribute them how they want. We can't. We can't distribute these ROMs how we want because they're not our ROMs. But Nintendo can do what they want with them. They can sell them. They can give them away for free. They can emulate them at their own museum. They're theirs. Why are we splitting hairs about that? Like, this is so weird for everybody. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people now have this rhetoric of, oh, Nintendo, so we can't steal your games and illegally emulate them without paying you, but you're allowed to steal your own games? Yes. Yes. They're their games to steal. That's like you coming into my house and taking 10 games on your way out, and I'm like, what the hell? You can't do that. Those are my games. And then you say to me, but I saw you playing those. I saw you taking them out of the house. They're mine. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know. Like, this has 46,000 likes, and I'm really happy for Bob. Like, I'm glad Bob got this traction and articles are being wrote about him. Bob manages to always end up in the news somehow, and I think that's really cool. I think the avenue that Bob takes creating content online is really inspiring, and constantly finds himself in these positions, which is really nice. But in saying that, these 46,000 likes are definitely hate likes. Like, not for Bob, but hate likes in the way of like, oh, screw Nintendo. How ridiculous is this? I'm going to like this. 46,000 likes, all these retweets, all these bookmarks, got-ems. Like, it's not quite translating for me. Like, what is the issue here in Nintendo emulating their own games in their museum? Like, this is a good use case for all of us to be like, hey, look, this is how emulation's done right. This is how emulation is done legally. This is a good use case for emulation. This is a point in emulation's favor of, hey, even Nintendo can find a use case for emulating. I don't know. Again, you can emulate games legally. You can use an emulator legally. You can, and I can, and Nintendo can. And the way Nintendo can do it does look a little differently to how we can do it, but still can be done. All those things can be true. So I found this in the comments. People were sharing and talking about this a lot lately. So over on Nintendo's own website, this is the Australian legal website. There's a lot of Q&As about emulations and illegal piracy. And this was one people found funny. So this is what Nintendo is like posing as the question. People making Nintendo emulators and Nintendo ROMs are helping publishers by making old games available that are no longer being sold by the copyright owner. This does not hurt anyone and allows gamers to play their old favorites. What's the problem? The problem is that it's illegal. So people are making fun of this because Nintendo literally right here wrote out what everybody's answer to why emulation should be okay is, and then they've literally just gone and shut it down with, yeah, it's illegal. Which people that ask this question know it's illegal. They're saying, who does it hurt? And again, this is a cycle that we keep going through that I keep trying to explain, and I feel like a broken record the amount of times I've talked about it. Morality and legality are two very different things. Like, baseline, it is illegal to download a ROM for something you don't own. It doesn't matter if you can't buy it. It doesn't matter if there's no way to buy it. It's still illegal, and that doesn't change based on what you want or your thoughts and feelings. Morality-wise, do I think it's okay to download something? Yeah, I don't really care. I think that if it's the only way to get it, that's probably how I'm going to get it. But I am aware when I do it, I'm breaking the law. Like, that won't just change because I want it to. So this is funny. It is funny because right here, it just is the cycle. And people find this funny because they don't realize it's the cycle that we're all stuck in. It should be okay. Why isn't it okay? There's no other way to do it. It's illegal. But it should be okay. It should be. Maybe it should be. But it is illegal, right? There does need to be some sort of black and white hard line with this stuff. Otherwise, it's all going to come down to thoughts and feelings, and that's not really how the world works, unfortunately. Like, you can't just really want something to be true, and then therefore it is true, you know? It then goes into a situation of like, where do we draw the line? Like, if there is absolutely no way to buy that thing, you can illegally download it and then it becomes legal. But then what if a publisher then decides to make that thing commercially available like next week? Can you still download it legally? Like, where is the line? Where is the acceptability? Where is it okay? Where is it not okay? Like, it's too confusing. So it's just all not okay. Copyrights and trademarks of games are corporate assets. If these vintage titles are available far and wide, it undermines the value of intellectual property and adversely affects the copyright holder. In addition, the assumption that games are involved vintage or nostalgic games is incorrect. Nintendo is famous for bringing back to life its popular characters for its newer systems. For example, Mario and Donkey Kong have enjoyed their adventures all over Nintendo platforms, going from coin-op machines to our latest hardware platforms. As a copyright owner and creator of such famous characters, only Nintendo has the right to benefit from these valuable assets. I think people have an issue with wording like that. For me, they're being pretty open and honest about it. Like, you just being able to download anything at any point is undermining the value of their property. And from a company standpoint of people that are, you know, they have a certain vision and a certain plan, and they know that certain things aren't available, and it drives up valuability on other things. It could be the difference in them deciding to make a new Donkey Kong game or not, because they're like, well, there's a demand for it because we haven't released one in a while, so maybe we should make a new Donkey Kong game, as opposed to, well, everybody's just pirating and downloading the old one and it's gotten super popular again because of that, and maybe people won't pick up the new one. I don't know, maybe there's some mentality or structural thinking there, and it could actually prevent us from getting a new game in this series because everybody's just illegally downloading the previous games. They're being pretty open and honest about their reasoning here, but then people are just clowning on them because people just want to be able to download games anyway. Like, it doesn't matter what they say, people are gonna just want what they want, which, again, for the most part, you are completely unchained and unrestricted on downloading anything you want. There are emulators for literally every console up to the current gen, including Wii U. You can illegally download any game and get away with it. Like, I'm not going to show you how, but you absolutely can. The only thing Nintendo is actively going after is current gen stuff, which I think makes sense and is pretty understandable across the board. At least that's the way I feel about that. Everything else is up to you. It is illegal, but you're not going to get in trouble. That's pretty much just the way it's always been with everything, right? Like, we've all been downloading movies, TV shows, music, LimeWire, Pirate Bay our whole lives. I'm still standing. I haven't gone to jail. Same with all the ROMs I've downloaded over the years. It is illegal. We know it's illegal. We know it is. I don't know why we're pretending or hoping that it's not. We know it is. But we'll get away with it. You know? So I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts. This is very drawn out, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know down below what you think of this whole pirating thing and the Nintendo Museum having emulation. I don't know if I have any goofs or gaffes today. I do not. Remember, you can share even memes here in this art channel and I'll bring it up. But I ain't got nothing. So I guess I'll show Spiritfarer Talika bought my gaming desk mat. That's actually pretty awesome. That's actually pretty sick. Like, comment, and flip on that subscribe button. And I'm really interested to know your thoughts down below on all this emulation stuff. I'm feeling a little better, but my throat still hurts and I'm really congested. So there was no video yesterday. I apologize. Okay, bye.